Welcome to Sci-Fi Bedtime Stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss new stories. Welcome to Sci-Fi Bedtime Stories. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a new tale. Now settle in, get cozy, and prepare to be enchanted. You claim I lack a sense of humor, human, she declared, her alien wit sparkling as the fierce twin suns of Proxima Centauri blazed down upon the vibrant marketplace of Port Nexus. Merchants from a dozen different star systems shouted their wares, their calls a symphony of interstellar commerce. Lieutenant Commander Jack Harmon, his brow slick with sweat, adjusted the heavy sack slung across his broad shoulders. Years of military service had honed his senses. His gray-green eyes constantly scanned the throng, ever vigilant for any sign of danger. "You know," a melodic voice chimed beside him, "my people have a saying, the heavier the burden, the lighter the spirit." Jack cast a sideways glance at his companion, Vera Tapari, barely reaching his shoulder, her lavender skin glowing beneath the alien suns. Silvery lilac hair cascaded down her back, framing those impossibly large violet eyes that gazed up at him with an expression of pure, disarming mischief. "That makes absolutely no sense," Jack grumbled, shifting the unwieldy sack. "And if your people truly believe that, why aren't you carrying this yourself?" Vera's lips curved into a smile, revealing teeth impossibly white, unnervingly perfect. "Because I'm witnessing your spirit grow lighter, of course." Jack rolled his eyes. Just 3 days prior, he'd been commanding a tactical unit aboard the UNSC Dauntless. Now he found himself acting as a glorified porter for an alien diplomat's daughter, a cultural exchange that felt suspiciously like an extended babysitting duty. "Remind me again," Jack inquired, deftly sidestepping a hulking Dravari merchant. "Why are we lugging mystery cargo through the most notorious district in Port Nexus?" "Father insists these components are vital for the negotiations with your people," Vera replied, her sleek, form-fitting gray attire drawing appreciative glances from passers-by. "And you're here because your humans demanded security protocols." "Right, security," Jack scoffed. "More like an oversized errand boy." They turned into a narrower alley, the bustling crowds giving way to a more somber atmosphere. The buildings loomed closer, casting long shadows that offered little respite from the oppressive heat and amplified Jack's growing unease. "You humans are perpetually so serious," Vera observed, skipping ahead a few paces before turning to face him, walking backward. "Is it true what they say? That humor is a uniquely human trait?" Jack raised an eyebrow. "What? No, that's preposterous." "Then why?" she challenged, her head tilting in a way that reminded him of her alien nature despite her humanoid form. "Do you never laugh at my jokes?" "Because they aren't funny," he stated plainly. Vera gasped in exaggerated offense. "Not funny? I'll have you know I graduated top of my class in interspecies humor studies. That's not a real thing." "It absolutely is. Listen," she declared, clearing her throat with theatrical flair. "Why did the human cross the asteroid belt?" Jack sighed. "I don't know. Why?" "To get to the other tide." Vera erupted into peals of laughter, a sound like wind chimes caught in a tempest. Jack stared at her, uncomprehending. "That doesn't make any sense." "It's a play on words. You know, because of your moon's gravitational pull?" Her expression faltered at his continued lack of amusement. "Oh, come on. That was hilarious." "No, it wasn't. Look, humor requires context, timing, and shared cultural understanding. You can't just—" A deep voice cut through their exchange. 3 figures materialized, blocking the alley ahead. 2 burly Krell enforcers flanked a lean, sharp-featured human, clad in an expensive suit. "Well, well," the human drawled, his accent betraying him as hailing from the outer colonies. "What have we here? A UNC officer and a Tapari, escorting what I suspect are highly valuable goods through my domain." Jack slowly lowered the sack, his muscles coiling, ready for confrontation. "Your domain? Last I checked, Port Nexus fell under Galactic Concord jurisdiction." The man chuckled, a dry, humorless sound. "On paper, perhaps. I'm Mercer. I manage this district, and you're carrying something that has piqued my considerable interest." Vera stepped forward, her earlier levity vanishing entirely. "These are diplomatic materials, protected under Section 7 of the Concord Treaty." "Is that so?" Mercer's smile was chilling, failing to reach his eyes. "Then you won't object if my associates confirm that claim." The Krell enforcers advanced, their impassive reptilian faces betraying no emotion as they reached for the sack. Jack's hand instinctively moved towards his sidearm. "Touch that bag, and this escalates very quickly. And you say I'm not funny, human male, Vera suddenly interjected, her voice carrying a deliberate loudness. All eyes swiveled towards her in bewildered confusion. What? Jack asked, momentarily thrown off balance. Vera winked at him before turning her full attention back to Mercer. I was just explaining to my companion how humor works across species. For instance, do you know what happens when a human, 2 Krell, and a crime boss walk into an ambush? The distinct whine of energy weapons powering up echoed through the alley. A primal roar thundered from the rooftops above them. Neither do I, Vera chirped, an unsettling cheerfulness in her voice. But I think we're about to find out. The fragile standoff shattered in precisely 3 seconds before chaos erupted. Lethal energy bolts rained down, scorching the ground around Mercer and his Krell enforcers. Jack reacted instantly, snatching Vera and the sack, diving behind a nearby waste disposal unit. Friends of yours! He roared over the cacophony of weapons fire. Vera's expression had shifted from playful to deadly serious. Ah, absolutely not. I was bluffing. You were? Jack's incredulous response was cut short as a Krell enforcer crashed into their cover, its scaled hide smoking from multiple hits. This is not how I expected my day to go, Mercer growled, suddenly beside them, his expensive suit torn and singed, blood trickling from a cut above his eye. Jack trained his sidearm on Mercer's chest. Give me one reason not to hand you over to whoever's shooting at us. Because they're shooting at you, too, genius, Mercer snapped. Those are Varaxian mercenaries. They care nothing for jurisdiction or diplomatic immunity. A fresh barrage peppered their position, forcing them lower. Varaxians! Vera's violet eyes widened. They're banned from conquered space. Welcome to the real Port Nexus, Princess, Mercer sneered with a bitter laugh. Now I suggest a temporary alliance, if we want to live through the next 5 minutes. Jack assessed their options rapidly. 8 armed figures converged from multiple angles. The alley offered limited cover, no clear escape. Fine, Jack decided, but this doesn't make us friends. Mercer grinned, revealing a gold tooth. Wouldn't dream of it, Commander. The conscious Krell enforcer, Sark, regained composure, crouching beside Mercer, its reptilian eyes blinking horizontally, assessing the threat. Sark, create a diversion, Mercer ordered. We'll head for the maintenance tunnels. Sark nodded, pulling a small metal egg from its belt. With surprising grace for its bulky frame, it hurled the device over their cover. The explosion wasn't destructive, but the brilliant flash and deafening bang momentarily disoriented their attackers. Move! Jack shouted, hoisting the sack over his shoulder, weapon ready. They sprinted down the alley, Mercer leading, Sark covering their rear. Vera kept pace effortlessly beside Jack, her movements fluid and precise, nothing like her earlier skipping demeanor. Left here? Mercer called, ducking into an even narrower passage between buildings. It ended at a solid wall, but Mercer pressed his palm against a specific brick, revealing a hidden scanner. The wall slid open, revealing a dimly lit tunnel. Maintenance access, he explained as they rushed inside. Port Nexus is built on the original colony structures. These tunnels run throughout the entire district. The wall sealed behind them just as the sounds of pursuit reached the alley. They continued at a brisk pace through the tunnel, illuminated only by strips of emergency lighting. The air was stale, but breathable. So, Mercer said, after they'd gained considerable distance, what's in the bag that's worth sending Varaxian death squads after? Diplomatic materials, Jack and Vera answered simultaneously. Mercer snorted. Right, and I'm the Emperor of Mars. Believe what you want, Jack replied, but our arrangement ends once we're safely away from those mercenaries. They reached a junction where the tunnel split in 3 directions. Mercer paused, considering their options. Why help us at all? Vera suddenly asked. You were about to rob us. Mercer turned to her with a calculating expression. Let's call it enlightened self-interest. Varaxians don't leave witnesses, and I've worked too hard establishing my operation here to end up as a smear on an alley wall. How noble, Jack muttered. Besides, Mercer continued, ignoring Jack's comment, I recognize quality merchandise. Whatever you're carrying is worth more intact and delivered than stolen and fenced. Vera studied the crime boss with newfound interest. You're more perceptive than you appear, human. And you're not just a diplomat's airheaded daughter, are you? Mercer countered. Before Vera could respond, the tunnel shook with a distant explosion. Dust and small debris rained down from the ceiling. They're in the tunnel system, Sark growled, the Krell's first words. "How?" Jack demanded. "These access points are hidden, right?" Mercer's expression darkened. "They are, which means either they got extremely lucky or someone told them exactly where to look," Vera finished. The four exchanged wary glances, the fragile alliance suddenly strained by suspicion. "This way," Mercer stated, motioning toward the shadowy tunnel on the far right. "There's a secure refuge a couple of levels above us where we can regroup and assess." As they advanced, Jack's gaze caught Vira's. She was intently observing Mercer, her expression now an impenetrable mask. The playful alien girl, so quick with her awkward jests, had vanished. In her place stood someone calculating, sharp, her every sense on high alert. An unsettling thought prickled at Jack. How much of her earlier demeanor had been a facade? "So," Vira began casually, her voice cutting through the tension of their hurried flight. "A human, a Tapari, and 2 Krell walk into a maintenance tunnel." Jack gave her a bewildered glance. "Really? This was her timing?" "Just thinking aloud," she said with disarming innocence. "Sounds like the beginning of a joke, doesn't it? I'm still dedicated to proving aliens can be humorous." "Enough with the comedy hour, princess," Mercer called over his shoulder. "If we make it out of this alive, I'll personally vouch for your comedic genius." For the first time since their paths had intertwined, Jack struggled to contain a smile at Vira's tenacity. Her unwavering persistence was strangely endearing. "See?" Vira playfully nudged Jack with her elbow. "He understands. He gets it." "He's a criminal," Jack felt obliged to point out. "Yes, but a criminal with a sense of humor," she retorted, her tone bright. "That's a step forward." The tunnel began to incline, and the dim lighting gradually intensified. They passed several sealed doors, identical to each other, before Mercer halted before one. He placed his palm on a familiar scanner, and the door slid smoothly open, revealing a room that was surprisingly well appointed. "Welcome to my humble sanctuary," Mercer announced, gesturing for them to enter. "We should be relatively safe here, at least for a while." Mercer's hidden shelter was surprisingly luxurious, a stark contrast to the grimy tunnels they had just navigated. Sleek, modern furniture, advanced technological interfaces, and even a compact kitchenette filled the space. Jack released a relieved grunt as he placed the enigmatic sack on a central table. "Business first," Mercer said, activating a sleek security console. "We need to know how those Vraxian bastards tracked us." Jack's military instincts surged to the surface. "Check the bag first." Vira looked visibly distressed. "We can't simply open diplomatic materials without—" "We absolutely can if those materials are going to get us killed," Jack interrupted, already working to untie the sack. Inside, cushioned by protective padding, was a metallic sphere about the size of a human fist. Its surface shimmered with an iridescent sheen reminiscent of Vira's skin. The colors seemed to dance beneath the surface. "Those are not diplomatic materials." Sark, the formidable Krell enforcer, leaned forward, his reptilian eyes narrowing. "That is human artifact, ancient and immensely valuable." Jack pivoted to face Vira, whose violet eyes refused to meet his. "Care to enlighten us, princess?" Before she could speak, a small, ominous red light on the sphere began to pulse rhythmically. "Tracking beacon," both Jack and Mercer said simultaneously, their voices laced with dread. The crime boss frantically worked his security console. "They've locked onto the environmental controls for this entire sector. They're threatening to depressurize 3 residential blocks unless we surrender the artifact." "How many people?" Jack demanded, his voice hardening. "Around 8,000, Mercer replied grimly. "Mostly civilians, families." Jack's jaw clenched. "How long do we have?" 20 minutes. Silence fell over the room as the gravity of the situation settled upon them. Jack's steel gaze locked with Vira's violet eyes, and this time, she didn't flinch. "I didn't know," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "My father told me it was a technology that would benefit both our peoples. I had no idea it was stolen." "Not stolen," Sark interjected, his tone unwavering. "Recovered human artifact from before the Great Expansion. Lost for centuries." Jack ran a hand through his unruly hair, frustration etched on his face. "So your people found it, and now the Viraxians want it back. What exactly does it do?" Vira edged closer to him, her lavender skin almost luminescent in the safe-house lighting. "It's called the Nexus Core. Our scientists believe it's a repository of ancient human knowledge from Earth's pre-space era. Which makes it priceless to the right buyer," Mercer added, his eyes gleaming. Jack felt a headache pounding behind his eyes. "Great. So we're caught between Vraxian mercenaries willing to slaughter thousands of innocents and whatever your father has planned for this thing. We need to stop them from depressurizing those blocks, Vyra declared, her voice firm and resolved. Whatever happens with the core is secondary. Jack studied her, a flicker of respect igniting within him. Despite her earlier duplicity, her priorities, at least in this moment, seemed to align with his own. I know a back way into the Environmental Control Center, Mercer offered, but it's incredibly risky. We'd need a diversion. The core, Jack realized, his mind racing. We offer to hand it over, then hit them when they're focused on the exchange. Vyra moved closer, her tailored gray suit brushing against his arm. I'm going with you. Too dangerous, Jack replied automatically. Her eyes flashed. I'm trained in Tapari combat techniques. I'm not just a diplomat's daughter playing at adventurer. Could have fooled me with those terrible jokes, Jack muttered under his breath. A smile played at her lips. Maybe making you think my humor was terrible was part of my cover. Was it? No, she admitted, her tone self-deprecating. I really am that bad at human jokes. Despite the looming crisis, Jack found himself chuckling softly. The sound seemed. Vera's face illuminated, a smile blooming. See? I made you smile? Jack retorted, his protest weak. Hate to interrupt this moment, Mercer interjected, but we're minutes from disaster. Jack, snapping back to duty, nodded. Stark Mercer, create a diversion at the south. Vera and I will use the maintenance shaft to reach the environmental controls. As they collected gear from Mercer's surprisingly well-equipped stash, Vyra approached Jack. I'm sorry I wasn't entirely truthful, she murmured, helping him with his tactical vest. My father believes our people should control certain technologies. Their fingers brushed as they reached for the same weapon, a surprising jolt passing between them. And what do you believe? Jack asked, acutely aware of their proximity. Her violet gaze met his. I believe some things are meant to be shared, not kept hidden. The air crackled, a current beyond their perilous mission. He noticed her distinct fragrance, a blend of cinnamon and ozone, and the way her silvery hair caught the light. We should, Jack began, his voice unexpectedly husky. Focus on the mission, Vera finished, though she didn't pull away. An unspoken promise lingered, potent and undeniable. Mercer cleared his throat, breaking the spell. If you two are finished with your ritual, we need to finalize the plan. Vera's cheeks flushed a deeper purple, a blush Jack observed with keen interest. Right, Jack said, reluctantly establishing professional distance. Let's review the entry points. As they gathered around Mercer's holographic map of the control center, Jack felt Vera's shoulder press against his, her fingers occasionally brushing his arm. Each touch, deliberate yet casual, sent sparks of awareness through him. Whatever was growing between them would have to wait. Thousands of lives were at stake, imperiled by alien mercenaries seeking a piece of humanity's forgotten past. Jack vowed not to let them succeed. The Environmental Control Center of Port Nexus mirrored a ship's nerve center, all gleaming consoles and pulsing holograms. Jack and Vera infiltrated through the maintenance shaft precisely as planned, facing minimal resistance thanks to Stark and Mercer's diversion. Security systems disabled, Vera whispered, her hands flying across an alien interface with practiced ease. We have 13 minutes before life support fails in the residential sectors. Jack nodded, securing the door. Can you override their commands? Working on it, she replied, her violet eyes narrowing in concentration, reflecting the console's blue glow. Their encryption is advanced, not standard Vraxian protocols. Jack kept his weapon ready, scanning for threats while Vera worked. The Nexus core rested heavily in his vest, its weight a stark reminder of the stakes. Jack, Vera called softly. Look at this. He moved to her side, close enough to feel the warmth emanating from her lavender skin. The screen displayed intercepted communications between the Vraxian mercenaries and their employer. That's a Tapari diplomatic signature, Vera stated, her voice tight with anger. My father's personal encryption key. Jack's jaw tightened. Your father hired Vraxian mercenaries who would kill thousands? No, she insisted vehemently. He wouldn't, but someone with access to his codes might. Her fingers danced across the interface again. There's more. They don't just want the core. They want its contents decrypted. As if sensing their conversation, the core in Jack's pocket began to warm. He drew it out, surprised to see it glowing with increasing intensity. That's not supposed to happen, Vera breathed, reaching for it. As their hands simultaneously touched the artifact, an energy pulse surged through the room. The core's surface shifted, revealing intricate patterns resembling DNA helices. Suddenly, Jack's mind was flooded not with data, but with pure understanding. He gasped, staggering back. "Jack!" Vera steadied him, her touch sending another wave of electricity through him. "What happened?" "It's not just historical data," he managed, his voice rough with awe. "The core contains genetic information, the key to unlocking human potential that was engineered out of us millennia ago." Vera's eyes widened. "What kind of potential?" "Accelerated healing, enhanced strength, extended lifespan." Jack shook his head, attempting to articulate the immensity of it, struggling to absorb the overwhelming torrent of knowledge. Our forebears were far more than our current selves, their inherent capabilities deliberately stifled. Someone deliberately limited us. That would irrevocably shatter the Concord's balance of power. Vera breathed, her voice a hushed tremor. "If humanity were to unleash its full genetic birthright, we'd become an almost unstoppable force," Jack concluded, the realization echoing his own disbelief. The console behind them chimed urgently. "Environmental controls secured," Vera announced, her gaze fixed on the luminous display. "The residential sectors are safe." Jack's profound relief was tragically short-lived as the facility's alarms began to blare, a guttural wail filling the space. "Multiple ships are docking at the main hub," Vera reported, swiftly accessing the security feeds. "Tapari diplomatic vessels, and my father is leading the delegation." Jack's tactical mind immediately raced through options. How long until they reach us? Minutes at most. Her striking violet eyes met his, swirling with profound inner conflict. "Jack, I cannot allow him to possess this. Not now, especially after glimpsing its true purpose." A palpable intensity crackled between them, a silent current building as they stood on the precipice, the enigmatic core radiating its soft light. In that potent moment, something fundamental irrevocably shifted within their burgeoning relationship. "I trust you," Jack stated simply, his voice a quiet anchor. Vera's breath hitched, a soft gasp escaping. For her species, such a declaration carried a weight beyond human words. Trust was a hallowed bond to the Tapari, revered as infinitely more profound and intimate than any physical connection. "Jack," she whispered, stepping closer until barely a breath separated them. "In my culture, what you just said—" "I know," he replied, surprising her with quiet certainty. The core had indeed shared some cultural knowledge. Her lavender skin flushed a deeper hue as she fully grasped the overwhelming implications. "Then you understand precisely what I am offering, when I say I trust you, too." The air between them vibrated with potent tension, not from danger, but from an undeniable, burgeoning desire. Jack's hand rose, instinctively, to gently trace the graceful curve of her cheek, marveling at the silken, alien texture of her skin. "I understand," he murmured, his voice husky. Their lips met in a kiss that transcended species, tentative at first, then growing into an ardent, consuming intensity as they began to truly discover each other. Her mouth, a revelation, held a delicate whisper of spice and elusive sweetness, utterly alien, yet undeniably perfect. Jack's powerful arms encircled her slender waist, drawing her against his muscular frame, as her fingers tangled desperately in his tousled blonde hair. When they finally parted, both breathing heavily, Vera's eyes shimmered with deep emotions. "That was," she began. "Better than your jokes," Jack finished with a wide, infectious grin. She laughed, a genuine musical sound that resonated deep within his chest, making his heart race. "I'll have you know that on my world, that would be considered the absolute height of romance." "What, the kiss or the joke about your jokes?" "Both," she confessed, a soft smile gracing her lips, as her slender fingers instinctively traced intricate, feather-light patterns across his chest, beneath his tactical vest. Tapari believe humor and passion are intrinsically interconnected. The more unrestrained the laughter, the more profound and unbreakable the bond forged between souls. Jack raised an eyebrow, a teasing glint in his eyes. "Then we might be in serious trouble, because your jokes are still truly terrible." "Or," she countered, pressing herself against him with playful intimacy, "perhaps I've merely been holding back my absolute best material." The facility shuddered violently, a deep tremor as docking clamps engaged somewhere above them. "We need to move," Jack said reluctantly, forcing himself to focus. "Your father cannot obtain the core." Vera nodded, her expression swiftly turning grave. "There's an auxiliary docking bay 3 levels down. We could take a maintenance shuttle." "What about Mercer and Sarks? I've sent them the coordinates. They'll meet us there, or find their own way to escape." As they swiftly gathered their equipment, Jack felt the core pulse once more in his pocket. More vital information filtered directly into his consciousness. Detailed schematics for the station, advanced security protocols, and then, something utterly crucial, a specific location. "Vera," he said slowly, his voice tinged with awe, "I think the core wants us to take it somewhere very specific." She paused, looking at him with curiosity and dawning understanding. "It's communicating with you?" "Not exactly. More like downloading critical information directly into my mind." He tapped his temple. "There's a facility on Europa, an old Earth colony. Something immensely important is there." "Then that is precisely where we must go," she declared, her resolve unwavering, her decision immediate and absolute. "But first, we handle my father." The way she said it, with such complete, unquestioning confidence in their burgeoning partnership, sent a wave of profound warmth through Jack, entirely unconnected to the core's pulsing energy. "Are you ready?" he murmured, extending his hand. She met his gaze, her fingers lacing instinctively with his, a comforting warmth spreading between them. "Ready. And Jack, when this harrowing journey finally ends, I promise you a joke so truly uproarious, you'll have no alternative but to concede that even aliens possess a formidable grasp of humor. I look forward to being proven wonderfully wrong," he replied with a genuine smile that was meant solely for her. The maintenance shuttle was little more than a glorified cargo hauler, utilitarian, cramped, and utterly devoid of comfort. But to Jack and Vera, racing frantically away from Port Nexus with alarms blaring relentlessly behind them, it might as well have been a luxurious cruiser. "They're scrambling pursuit vessels," Vera reported, her fingers moving with practiced efficiency across the alien controls. 3 Tapari diplomatic cruisers and something else. An unidentified signature. Jack skillfully guided the shuttle through the station's intricate outer defense grid, pushing the aging engines beyond their limit. With recommended parameters set, and Vraxians configuring no different configuration, she frowned at the outbound route, sensing its speed. The shuttle shuddered, clearing the final security checkpoint and entering open space. Jack plotted a course for the Jupiter system, specifically Europa, where the core was guiding them. "We've got about 6 hours before we reach Europa," he announced, engaging autopilot, "assuming we can shake our pursuit." Vera left her station to join him at the helm, her lavender hand resting lightly on his shoulder, a casual touch sending warmth cascading through him. "Jack," she murmured, "we need to talk about my father." He turned, noting the conflict in her violet eyes. "I'm listening. He's not evil," she began, sinking into the co-pilot seat. "He genuinely believes he's protecting the galaxy, protecting humanity even, by stealing our genetic heritage, by preventing what he sees as its inevitable catastrophe." She leaned forward, silvery lilac hair falling around her face. "The Tapari have extensive historical archives. We've witnessed civilizations destroy themselves after rapid technological or biological advancement. So he thinks humans can't handle our own evolution." Vera's expression turned pained. "The Tapari Council believes that humanity's natural aggression, combined with your species' full genetic potential, would be volatile." Jack felt the core pulse warmly in his pocket, as if responding. "And what do you believe?" Her eyes met his, unwavering. "I believe choice matters. I believe humanity deserves to decide its own fate." Something shifted between them, a deepening of the connection that had been building since their first meeting. Jack reached out, taking her hand. "Thank you," he said simply. The shuttle's proximity alert interrupted the moment, blaring a warning that cut through the intimate atmosphere. "They're gaining on us," Vera confirmed, reluctantly returning to her station. "The unidentified vessel is moving at impossible speeds." Jack checked their weapon systems, minimal at best. This shuttle was designed for maintenance, not combat or high-speed pursuits. "We need somewhere to hide it," he muttered, scanning stellar charts. "The asteroid belt?" "Too predictable," Vera countered. "Wait, what about the Jovian shipyards? They're automated, minimal security. We could lose ourselves among the construction platforms." Jack nodded, adjusting their course. "Good thinking." As they approached the massive orbital shipyard circling Jupiter like a metallic halo, Jack maneuvered the shuttle into the labyrinth of half-constructed vessels and maintenance drones. The pursuing ship slowed, clearly hesitant to follow into the tight spaces. "That should buy us some time," Jack said, powering down non-essential systems to minimize their signature. But they'll establish a perimeter. We're not out of this yet. Vera moved to stand behind him, her hands resting on his shoulders, easing the tension in his muscles. You're very good at this, she observed. Escaping, I mean. Jack chuckled. Part of your NSC training? Though usually I'm the one doing the pursuing. Her fingers began small circles against his neck, finding knots of stress he hadn't realized were there. In Tapari culture, touch is considered a form of communication. Did you know that? Jack admitted, his voice growing husky. The Corps shared some information, but I think I might need a more hands-on lesson. Vera laughed softly, the sound sending pleasant shivers down his spine. That was almost funny, Commander Harmon. You're learning. He turned his chair to face her, pulling her gently onto his lap. Her weight felt perfect against him. I had a good teacher. Their lips met again, this time with greater urgency. The earlier kiss had been a discovery. This was an exploration. Jack's hands traced the curves of her body through her form-fitting suit, while her fingers tangled in his hair, pulling him closer. When they finally parted, breathing heavily, Vera's eyes had darkened to a deeper violet. In my culture, she whispered against his lips, this would be the moment I'd tell you a joke. Jack blinked in surprise. Seriously? She nodded solemnly, though her eyes danced with mischief. Tapari believed that laughter opens the soul to deeper connection. The more intimate the moment, the more important the humor. All right, Jack said, his hand settling on her hips. Let's hear it. Vera took a deep breath, her expression turning serious. What did the human commander say to the Tapari girl after their first kiss? Jack played along. I don't know, what? That was out of this world. She delivered the punchline with such earnest expectation that Jack couldn't help himself. He burst out laughing. Her face lit up with delight. You he chuckled softly. You actually laughed, he observed with amusement, clarifying, not because it was humorous. You laughed at how awful it was. Doesn't matter at all, she declared, a triumphant gleam in her eyes. Laughter is still laughter. I win this. Jack drew her closer, his gray-green eyes locking with her striking violet ones. Absolutely, you do. Time seemed to suspend between them, thick with unspoken possibilities. The shuttle's confined cockpit seemed to shrink further, the whole universe narrowing to just these two souls. The shrill shriek of the proximity alarm ripped through the delicate moment, shattering it completely. They've found us, Vera stated with clear reluctance, carefully pulling away from Jack's embrace and turning toward the sensor panel. Multiple vessels are converging on our position. Jack immediately dove back into the pilot's seat, his hand gripping the controls, and he started up the engines. Time for Plan B. We never had a Plan B. Well, we do now, he amended with a grin. He skillfully maneuvered the shuttle deeper into the massive shipyard toward an immense superstructure. It looked like a nearly completed battlecruiser. We're going to borrow something with significantly more firepower. Vera's eyes widened in disbelief as she began to grasp his intention. You're planning to steal an unfinished warship? Not steal, Jack corrected her with a playful smile. Requisition it. I am UNCC after all. As they approached the massive battlecruiser, the mysterious core within Jack's pocket pulsed with greater intensity, almost as if approving his audacious plan. Hold on tight, he warned her, his voice a mix of excitement and trepidation, accelerating directly toward what appeared to be a large maintenance bay. This could get bumpy. The unfinished battlecruiser, designated UNSC Prometheus, responded to Jack's override codes with surprising alacrity. As emergency lights bathed the bridge in a soft amber glow, Jack felt an unexpected swell of pride rise within him. This vessel, though incomplete, was a testament to humanity's endless ingenuity and unwavering determination. I can't actually believe that worked, Vera exclaimed, clearly awestruck, as she examined the vessel's sophisticated control systems. Your UNC clearance shouldn't grant you access to a prototype warship like this. Jack frowned, equally puzzled by the ship's cooperation. It shouldn't, unless... He hesitantly pulled the Nexus core from his pocket. The ancient artifact pulsed with a steady, rhythmic light, almost like a beating heart. As he held it near the central command console, the ship's systems sprang fully to life, holographic displays blossoming into existence all around the bridge. The ship recognizes the core, Vera whispered, her violet eyes wide with amazement. More than recognizes it, Jack responded, his gaze fixed on the holographic schematics that had just appeared. The Prometheus was specifically designed to be powered by this technology. He pointed to the displayed blueprints. Look at those integration points. They're a perfect match to the core's energy signature. Vera's eyes widened further in comprehension. Someone knew about the core's existence all along. They've been secretly preparing for this. Before Jack could respond to the revelation, the tactical display flashed a stark red warning. Multiple vessels on approach. We need to move now. Despite its unfinished state, the Prometheus handled with surprising grace. Jack guided the massive vessel out of the shipyard, its powerful engines roaring to life with a deep, satisfying hum. The pursuing Tapari vessels immediately adjusted their courses to intercept. They're hailing us, Vera announced, her voice tight with rising tension. Jack nodded in acknowledgement. Put it through, he ordered. The view screen flickered momentarily, then resolved into a stern face of an older Tapari male. The familial resemblance was immediately apparent, the same distinctive violet eyes as Vera, though somehow lacking her inherent warmth. Father? Vera acknowledged him, her posture straightening with a newfound resolve. Daughter, High Counselor Terran Tapari replied coolly, his tone betraying no emotion. You disappoint me greatly. The feeling is entirely mutual, she shot back without hesitation. Hiring Varaxian mercenaries, threatening innocent civilians, that's not the father I used to know. Terran's expression remained impassive and unyielding. Extreme circumstances require extreme measures. The core cannot be permitted to reach Europa under any circumstances. Jack stepped forward, positioning himself protectively beside Vera. Why? Because humanity might finally reclaim what was unfairly stolen from them? Because you cannot possibly comprehend the consequences, Terran snapped, his voice laced with suppressed anger. Your species was deliberately limited for a reason, Commander Harmon. The genetic modifications locked within the core were not a natural evolutionary step. They were weapons, created during your last brutal war. Jack felt the core pulse against his chest, almost in silent protest against the accusation. That's not what the core has shown me. Of course it hasn't, Terran scoffed. It was specifically programmed to seek out compatible hosts and restore those deadly modifications. It has no regard for the utter devastation that inevitably followed. Vera placed a comforting hand on Jack's arm. Father, if what you claim is true, then why not simply share this crucial information with us? Why resort to stealing the core in such a clandestine way? Politics, Terran replied bitterly, his violet eyes flickering with disdain. Your Earth government already knows the truth. They've always known the potential dangers. But they desperately want the power for themselves, for their military, for their privileged elite. They seek to create a two-tiered human society, the enhanced and the ordinary. Jack's mind raced, grappling with the implications. Could the High Counselor actually be telling the truth? The core had shown him visions of humanity's potential, but never any real history, never any details about its dark origins. We're rapidly approaching Europa, Vera reported quietly, breaking the tense silence. On the view screen, Terran's expression hardened into cold resolve. I have already stationed our diplomatic fleet in orbit around Europa. You will not reach the surface of that moon. Father, this doesn't have to be personal, Vera pleaded softly. It's about safeguarding the galaxy, including humanity, from repeating a CA catastrophic blunder. The transmission died, plunging them into a tense silence. Do you trust him? Jack asked, turning to Vera. Her lavender features were clouded with worry. My father doesn't lie, but he might not know the whole story. The tactical display updated, revealing the Tapari blockade around Europa and something else. What's that? Jack gestured toward an unknown vessel racing toward them from the moon. Before Vera could respond, the Prometheus shuddered as its systems interfaced with something. Holographic displays flickered, then stabilized, displaying a message. Guardian protocol activated. Nexus core detected. Proceed to coordinates. From Port Nexus. It's guiding us, Vera realized, her eyes widening. The sleek, elegant vessel appeared on their view screen. It's beautiful, Vera breathed. Jack felt the core warm against his chest. It's human, he stated with certainty. Ancient human. The Guardian vessel positioned itself beside them, carving a path through the Tapari blockade. Weapons were aimed, but none fired. They won't risk harming the Guardian, Vera explained. Its technology is revered. Jack set course for the coordinates, navigating the Prometheus through the blockade. Terran's flagship moved to intercept, but maintained a respectful distance. Entering Europa's atmosphere, Jack felt a wave of calm certainty. Whatever awaited them, whatever truth about humanity's past, he was meant to find it. Vera moved beside him, her hand finding his. "Whatever happens," she said softly. "I'm glad I met you, Jack Harmon." He looked at her, captivated by her beauty and strength. In such a short time, she had become something he'd never anticipated, especially with someone from another world. "Even though my humor is awful," he offered with a smile. "Especially because of that," she replied, her lips curving. "It gave me the perfect chance to prove you wrong." He pulled her close, their foreheads touching. "You've proven me wrong about so much." Their lips met in a kiss, a promise of an uncertain future. As the Prometheus descended towards Europa, guided by the ancient guardian, he knew he wanted Vera to be part of it. Sensors indicated a massive structure beneath the ice, hidden from detection. The core pulsed insistently. "We're here," Jack said, breathless. Vera's eyes shimmered with excitement and fear. "Ready to discover humanity's true legacy?" Jack nodded, feeling the weight of the moment. "Ready or not, it's time to learn who we are." Beneath the ice, a vast chamber resembling a living forest awaited. Bioluminescent plants illuminated the space, with clear streams flowing through carefully designed channels. "It's beautiful," Vera whispered in awe. Jack nodded, equally amazed. The core pulsed warmly, guiding them deeper. Behind them, Terran, along with Tapari guards, and Mercer and Sarks joined them. "This doesn't look like a weapons facility," Jack observed, eyeing Terran. The Tapari counselor's expression was unchanged. "Appearances can be deceiving, Commander." As they approached the center, the vegetation parted to reveal a circular platform. At its center stood an organic holographic interface. The moment Jack stepped onto the platform with the core, the interface activated. A figure materialized, a human woman with mixed heritage. "Welcome, inheritors," the figure greeted. "I am Archivist Eleliana, custodian of humanity's legacy." Jack felt a surge of pride. "I'm Lieutenant Commander Jack Harmon, United Nations Space Command." The archivist smiled. "I know who you are, Jack Harmon. The Nexus Corps has been monitoring you since first contact. You have been tested, and you have proven worthy." "Tested," Jack echoed. "The Corps, more than—" Eleliana revealed the genetic repository, a profound arbiter of character that had awaited humanity's wise stewardship for ages. Taran voiced grave concerns, reminding her of humanity's past genetic overreach that nearly shattered her civilization. "Partially true, Counselor Tari," Eleliana conceded, her words incomplete. The chamber transformed, painting visions of Earth's lost golden age, a society with advancements that dwarfed current galactic standards. "Humanity soared through genetic enhancement," Eleliana explained, "conquering disease, extending life, amplifying intellect and might. Yet this power carried a steep price." She unveiled scenes of utter devastation, ravaged cities, and a planet scarred by war, a spectacle that twisted Jack's gut. In the aftermath, humanity's ancestors chose a path. Instead of discarding their enhancements, they forged the Nexus Protocol, a safeguard to grant this power only to the deserving. They voluntarily curtailed their own genetic evolution, establishing a baseline for natural growth over millennia, patiently awaiting readiness to reclaim their heritage. "Precisely," Vera grasped. Eleliana confirmed the Corps was programmed to seek individuals embodying not just intellect or strength, but wisdom, compassion, and moral fortitude. A weighty sense of duty settled upon Jack. "And you believe I've met this standard?" "Your actions speak volumes," Eleliana affirmed. "You pursued understanding when offered power, shielded the innocent when threatened, and met prejudice with openness, not animosity." She then turned to Vera, a gentle smile gracing her features. "And you, daughter of Tapari, have demonstrated that interspecies cooperation is not merely feasible, but vital. Your courage in defying your father for what you knew was right is remarkable." Terran stepped forward, his brow furrowed. "Archivist, my apprehension stemmed from the galaxy's safety should humanity reclaim these enhancements without adequate safeguards." "Your concerns are valid, Counselor," Eleliana interjected softly. "The Nexus Protocol addresses them. Enhancements will not be freely dispensed. Each human will undergo individual evaluation by the Corps, just as Jack did." "A meritocracy," Jack mused. "A responsibility," Eleliana corrected. The core ascertains not only worthiness, but ensures the enhanced retain their essential humanity: empathy, compassion, the capacity for joy and humor. These qualities are as crucial as intellect or strength. At the mention of humor, Jack exchanged a glance with Vera, who struggled to stifle a grin. "Something amusing?" he inquired. "Just recalling how our journey began," she replied, "with me endeavoring to convince you aliens understood humor, and now we learn humor is among humanity's most vital traits." Jack grinned. "I suppose I owe you an apology." "I'll accept payment in the form of admitting I'm hilarious," she countered, her violet eyes alight. Jack laughed, drawing her near. "You are many things, Vera Tapari. Brave, brilliant, beautiful." He paused dramatically. "Hilarious is not one of them." Instead of offense, she beamed. "But you laughed. That's what matters." Terran observed their interaction with a dawning comprehension. "Perhaps I've underestimated humanity's capacity for growth," he admitted, "and my daughter's judgment." The archivist nodded approvingly. "The path ahead demands collaboration. Humanity will gradually reclaim its potential, guided by oversight from both human and non-human representatives." She turned to Jack, her gaze solemn. "Lieutenant Commander Harmon, are you prepared to serve as the inaugural Nexus ambassador, bridging humanity's past and future?" Jack met Vera's gaze, drawing strength from her presence. In their brief time together, they had transitioned from reluctant allies to something far deeper. Their night aboard the Prometheus, after their escape from Port Nexus, had been a profound revelation, their bodies finding solace, their connection transcending species through shared vulnerability and trust. "I am," he answered firmly, "with one stipulation, that the Tapari provide a diplomatic liaison of equal standing." Taran's eyebrow rose, immediately grasping Jack's intent. "My daughter, I presume?" "Who better?" Jack replied. "She has already proven she understands humans better than most Terrans." Vera's fingers intertwined with his. "I accept the position," she said, her voice steady despite the emotion shimmering in her eyes. "Though I must caution the committee that the ambassador, We've formed a deeply personal connection," Jack admitted. Eleliana responded with a knowing smile. "Precisely. This bond between species embodies the very understanding the Nexus Protocol seeks to encourage." The core in Jack's grip throbbed faintly before ascending, blossoming into a radiant web that engulfed the chamber. Interface nodes shimmered into existence around the platform, marking the genesis of an infrastructure designed to assess and elevate deserving humans. "It is complete," Eleliana declared, her voice ringing with triumph. "The Nexus Protocol is now active. Humanity's ascent towards its inherent potential has commenced." Taran moved towards Jack, extending a hand in a gesture of human accord. "It appears my judgment was clouded, Commander Harmon. Perhaps humor isn't the sole admirable quality you possess." Jack clasped his hand. "And perhaps Tapari caution isn't such a hindrance to offset human impulsiveness." As the group prepared to ascend and share the momentous accord with the world, Jack drew Vera aside. "So," he began, his gray-green gaze locking with her violet eyes, "Earth's ambassador, prepared for an eternity of deciphering our eccentricities?" Vera's lavender fingers gently caressed his jawline. "Only if you are willing to endure a lifetime of dreadful extraterrestrial humor." "I believe I can manage," Jack murmured, pulling her close. "Though, fair warning, I still contend your jokes are atrocious." Her melodic laughter echoed. "And you claim I lack humor, human male," she teased, mirroring their initial exchange. This time, Jack surrendered to a smile. "Perhaps not humorous," he conceded, pressing his forehead to hers in the tender gesture they'd cultivated, "but undeniably perfect." As their lips met, sealing their pact, Jack pondered the bizarre odyssey that had intertwined their destinies, from ferrying enigmatic cargo through alien bazaars to unleashing humanity's dormant capabilities. Whatever trials awaited them as humanity reclaimed its birthright, they would confront them as one awful joke at a